Every man has a blind spot. For good-looking men, that blind spot is brutal. You attract attention easily, but somehow the women you truly want stay just out of reach. You see them look at you, then pull back. You try to talk to them, and something feels off. Meanwhile, other guys who don't look half as good as you, end up with women you thought were your type. If that's been bothering you, there's a reason for it. Actually, there are 4. And until you understand these 4 reasons, you'll keep losing to men you shouldn't be losing to. Stay right here, because the gap between being noticed and being chosen is smaller than you think, but only if you know what's really happening. There's an unspoken rule in dating that no one ever tells attractive men. A principle that quietly determines whether the woman you want leans in or pulls away. Most men never learn it. Most never even realize it exists. But once you understand this hidden pattern, the entire landscape of your relationships changes. If you want to access the part of attraction that usually stays in the dark, like and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Because in just a moment, I'll uncover the first truth that turns your attention into real connection, and it's probably the last thing you expected. Number 1, he attracts women, but not the ones he truly wants. You've lived long enough to notice a pattern. Attention isn't your problem. You walk into a room and women look. Some smile, some drift closer, some even make the first move. On paper, that should put you in a position of abundance. But the reality is far more uncomfortable. The women who chase you are rarely the women you're drawn to. Instead, you keep getting pulled into connections that feel convenient, not intentional. And convenience is a dangerous substitute for desire. From my side of the table, as a woman who has watched this dynamic play out countless times, it's always the same. You're not choosing these women. You're accepting them. And acceptance is the first step toward a relationship that traps you, not one that fulfills you. When a woman approaches you first, especially one you're not deeply attracted to, the interaction feels easy. Low stakes, no pressure. She laughs at everything. She keeps the conversation smooth. She gives you the green light without you having to risk anything. For a man who has been praised for his looks his entire life, ease can feel like chemistry. You mistake her appreciation for compatibility. And when you're tired, lonely, or simply in the mood to say yes to something effortless, you let her in. At first, it feels harmless. She's around, she's warm, she's available. And because she came to you ready-made, you start slipping into a rhythm that feels almost natural. You tell yourself she's good enough. Or maybe I'm being too picky. Or maybe attraction grows. Sometimes it does. More often it doesn't. What grows instead is comfort. And comfort is seductive in its own quiet way. But here's the part most men never see coming. The moment you start believing she's more invested in you than you are in her, something subtle shifts inside you. You begin treating her presence as guaranteed. You stop trying. You pull back emotionally. You respond slower. You don't put in effort, not because you're cruel, but because you were never truly anchored in the relationship to begin with. And women, especially the ones who had to initiate because you wouldn't feel the shift instantly. She senses the imbalance. She senses the dismissal. She senses the quiet arrogance of a man who thinks he is the prize simply because she pursued him. And that's when her behavior changes. First, she complains, then she warns you, then she threatens distance. She says she feels unappreciated. She says you're taking her for granted. She says she doesn't feel chosen. And she's right because she wasn't. But instead of correcting the foundation, you panic. You swing from indifference to overcorrection. Suddenly, you're texting more, becoming overly accommodating, desperately trying to make up for the deficit she's been feeling. You switch from comfort to fear. And fear never makes a man more attractive. This is the moment where admiration dissolves. She looks at you and no longer sees the confident, composed man she pursued. She sees someone bending to keep her from leaving, and that shift right there is fatal to her attraction. Once she senses you're acting from insecurity instead of desire, she withdraws. She detaches and eventually she leaves. And the twist, you end up devastated by the loss of a woman you didn't even truly want. This is the trap beautiful men fall into more than anyone else. When you're used to being chosen, you never learn how to choose. You never learn how to pursue intentionally. You never learn how to recognize your own standards. You simply react to what comes your way, and when what comes your way doesn't match what you secretly desire, you become resentful, not of her, but of yourself. It's in this confusion that a darker thought creeps in. If I couldn't hold on to someone I wasn't even crazy about, how would I ever hold on to the woman I actually want? That is the wound no one sees behind a handsome face. Not the lack of options, but the lack of alignment. Not the shortage of attention, but the shortage of intention. The women who pursue you aren't the problem. The problem is that you've mistaken availability for compatibility so many times that you've forgotten what it feels like to truly want a woman instead of settling for one. And until you confront this pattern, you'll keep losing women. Not because you're not attractive, but because you're never fully present in the relationships you say yes to. Number 2, he misreads the reactions of beautiful women. There's a moment every attractive man knows too well. The shift from effortless conversations with average women to the sudden friction he feels when he finally talks to a woman who truly captivates him. It's subtle, it's quick, and it throws him off balance every single time. With most women, the dynamic is smooth. They smile before you even finish your sentence. They keep the conversation alive, filling in every awkward pause with enthusiasm. They lean in, laugh easily, and signal interest without making you work for it. And because it feels natural, you assume that's how chemistry is supposed to work. But the moment you speak to a woman who is genuinely beautiful, the type who turns heads, the type who lives in your mind longer than she should, you feel something different. She's quieter. She doesn't rush to validate you. She doesn't react to your jokes the same way other women do. She gives you less. She makes you carry more of the interaction. And in your mind, that shift feels like rejection. But it isn't. From a woman's perspective, especially one who's beautiful, this behavior isn't coldness, it's assessment. She's not shutting you out. She's watching you. She wants to see how you respond when things aren't immediately affirming. She wants to see where your confidence comes from, whether it's rooted in who you are or in how others treat you. Beautiful women live in a reality most men never understand. Every day they encounter men who want something from them, men who approach them timidly, men who compliment them excessively, men who crumble when they sense the slightest disinterest. After a while, it all becomes noise, repetitive, predictable noise. So they filter, they test, they push a little just to see what survives the pressure. Picture this. You walk up to her. She sees you before you speak. She notices the face, the posture, the confidence you think you're projecting, but she doesn't know you yet. She doesn't know what you're made of. So, for the first minute, maybe 5, she gives you the bare minimum. Short answers, a soft smile, but not a generous one. Delayed reactions, a slower pace. Not because she isn't interested, but because she needs to see what you do when the room isn't bending to your charm. This is the moment where many good-looking men fail. They're used to being met halfway. They're used to women cushioning their confidence with warmth. So when a beautiful woman doesn't respond the same way, panic sets in. They overthink. They try too hard. They explain themselves. They overcompensate. Or worst of all, they retreat completely, assuming the door is closed. What they don't realize is that this tiny window of discomfort is the exact place where attraction is built. She isn't rejecting you. She's rejecting every version of you that collapses under pressure. What she's really looking for is emotional steadiness, the ability to stay present and grounded even when she's not giving you an easy path. A woman who can have almost any man doesn't want someone who needs reassurance to function. She wants someone who can handle silence, carry a conversation without validation, and stay confident without applause. When you misread her tests as rejection, you reveal the flaw she was checking for, a confidence that depends on external approval. That kind of confidence crumbles with the smallest challenge, and once she senses that fragility, her interest dissolves. Not because you're unattractive, but because she sees you as unstable in the moments that matter. The truth is, you're not lacking looks. You're lacking resilience and social tension. And resilience is the currency beautiful women value more than anything. When she pulls back slightly, she's not being difficult. She's giving you space to show your depth. She wants to see if you can navigate the uncertainty between two people without losing yourself. Most men can't, and that's exactly why they never connect with the women they truly want. Number 3, he's afraid to break the illusion, both his and his friends. There's a quiet pressure that lives inside every man who's been labeled the attractive one. It doesn't matter who gave him that title, family, classmates, coworkers, or women he's met over the years. Once the label sticks, he begins carrying an invisible expectation to always look like the man who could get any woman he wants. And that expectation becomes a trap. From the outside, it seems flattering. Your friends hype you up. They tease you about how easy dating must be for you. They assume women fall into your lap. They believe you don't have to try. And at some point, you start believing the same thing, not because it's true, but because it's easier than admitting you're unsure of yourself. So, when the moment comes to approach a woman you actually want, you pause. Not because she isn't interested, not because you're intimidated by her beauty, but because you're terrified of what happens if she doesn't respond the way everyone expects her to. A single rejection would crack the image you've been carrying for years, an image you didn't even choose, but one you feel obligated to protect. Approaching her means taking a risk, and taking a risk means opening the door to failure. Failure means exposing a truth you don't want anyone, including yourself, to confront. So instead of acting, you wait. You linger near the edge of the interaction, hoping something will pull the two of you together without you having to initiate. You rely on convenience, timing, or coincidence. Anything that lets you enter the situation without risking the illusion you've built. In a group setting, this dynamic becomes even clearer. You and your friends spot a woman you find captivating. One of your less attractive friends decides to talk to her first. He isn't the smoothest. He isn't the best dressed, but he's willing to face the possibility of rejection. You're not. So you watch him walk over, you watch him smile, make her laugh, break the ice. And when she responds, when she lets him into her space, something inside you sinks. You could have done that. You should have done that. But you didn't, because deep down, you weren't trying to impress her. You were trying not to embarrass yourself. And that's the real difference. He was playing to connect. You were playing not to lose. Men forget this all the time. Trying not to lose is the fastest way to guarantee you never win. Over time, this avoidance solidifies into a habit. You only step into situations that feel safe. You only flirt when the signals are obvious. You only approach when you can sense a guaranteed yes. And slowly, your dating life narrows until you're left with options that require no courage and consequently no real desire. The danger of this pattern is subtle but brutal. You begin living beneath your potential without even realizing it. You start believing that the women you genuinely want are out of your league, not because they actually are, but because you've become a man who doesn't take the emotional risks required to reach them. And here's the part most men never admit out loud. The illusion isn't just for your friends, it's for you. You're protecting your self-image because you're afraid that if you put yourself out there and fail, the truth might surface. That maybe you're not as good with women as people think. That maybe your attractiveness doesn't guarantee connection. That maybe you're vulnerable, but that kind of confidence, the kind that needs to be protected from reality, isn't confidence at all. It's a fragile mask, and masks always break. Real confidence isn't built when everything goes your way. It's built in the moments when you step forward without knowing how it will unfold. The admiration your friends have for you isn't what will bring the right woman into your life. The courage to act without relying on that admiration is because the confidence that comes from other people is borrowed, and borrowed confidence never gets you the woman you truly want. Number 4, he relies on online dating, and it traps him. There's a reason so many handsome men feel exhausted by modern dating, even though they should have an advantage. On the surface, online dating looks like the perfect environment for an attractive man. You put up a few good photos, match with women who notice your looks, start conversations, and wait for things to unfold. It sounds efficient, controlled, safe, almost too easy. But that illusion is exactly the problem. Online dating isn't designed to highlight your strengths. It's designed to flatten them. The moment you enter a digital marketplace where thousands of men are competing simultaneously, your natural advantages disappear. Women aren't meeting your presence, your energy, your tone, or your confidence. They're meeting a two-dimensional version of you, one that looks just like every other good-looking guy who had the same idea. For women, especially the truly attractive ones, the experience is completely different from yours. While you might send a message to one woman you find stunning, she's receiving 100 messages from men who want the same thing. Many of those men are just as attractive as you, some more, some less. But in her inbox, the differences don't matter. Everyone blends into one endless stream of thirsty introductions. When a woman is flooded with that much attention, she stops filtering for attractiveness. She filters for effortlessness, entertainment, and ego boosts. She responds when she's bored. She swipes when she wants validation. She entertains conversations without any real intention behind them. And the worst part, you won't know which category you fall into until it's too late. This is the trap. On a dating app, you're never the only one. You're one of many, and no matter how good-looking you are, you're replaceable in seconds. Picture the typical cycle. You match with a woman who seems promising. She likes your photos, maybe your bio, maybe the vibe she picks up. She replies a few times. The conversation flows, and you feel a spark just enough to get hopeful, but then she disappears. Maybe she got busy. Maybe another conversation picked up. Maybe she just needed validation that day and moved on after getting it. You don't know, and that uncertainty starts eating at you. So what do? You lower your filter. You match with women you're less excited about because they reply more consistently. And slowly, you start forming connections built on convenience rather than alignment. Before you even realize it, you're in the same pattern you fall into in real life. You say yes to the woman who's available, not the woman you truly want. At first, you justify it. You tell yourself that chemistry can grow, that you should give her a chance, that maybe it's not fair to expect perfection. And while those rationalizations sound mature, they're disguising something deeper, settling. Months pass, maybe a year, the relationship becomes stable, predictable, comfortable. But comfort has a way of making you forget the truth. You didn't choose her because you were drawn to her. You chose her because the chase was easy. And then one day, you see the kind of woman you always wanted in the first place in a cafe, at an event, on the street. She looks at you just long enough to make something inside. You wake up, and you feel it, that sting of regret. The quiet voice that whispers, "Why didn't I go for someone like her?" That voice grows louder each year you stay in the wrong relationship. Because no matter how good your life looks from the outside, you know you compromised. That's when bitterness starts to grow. Not toward women, not toward dating apps, but toward yourself. Toward every moment you let fear choose for you. Toward every time you mistook availability for destiny. Toward every time you settled because taking a risk felt too exposing. The truth is painful but liberating. The woman you want is rarely waiting for you online. She's living her real life just like you should be. She's in the places where your personality, not your filtered photos, can reach her. She's noticing men who show up with presence, not profiles. And she's drawn to the man who isn't afraid to walk up, start a conversation, and risk hearing no. That's what most handsome men never Realize. Beauty might get you noticed, but courage gets you chosen. And until you step out of the digital crowd and into the real world where your energy actually matters, you'll keep losing time, opportunities, and the women who could have changed your life. Because online dating doesn't show you your value. It only shows you how replaceable you look in a crowded room. You've seen by now that being good looking doesn't guarantee you access to the woman you truly want. The world taught you that attractiveness would make everything easier. But in reality, it only made the wrong things easy and the right things harder. It's not your face that's standing in the way. It's the patterns you've been repeating without even noticing. When you rely on being chosen instead of choosing, you invite women into your life who don't match your desires. When you interpret a beautiful woman's evaluation as rejection, you step back at the exact moment you should lean forward. When you protect an image instead of taking action, you avoid the experiences that would build real confidence. And when you hide behind online dating, you mistake accessibility for abundance and compatibility for convenience. These four patterns work together like a quiet erosion. They don't destroy you in one moment. They wear you down over years. They create the illusion that the women you admire are out of reach when the truth is much simpler. You've been operating below your potential because it felt safer than facing discomfort. But safety has a cost. It keeps you invisible to the women who would have chosen you for who you are, not for how you look. Here's the truth you need to walk away with. You don't lose women because you're not attractive enough. You lose them because you don't act like a man who knows his worth. And the moment you change the way you move, the moment you choose intentionally, respond steadily, approach courageously, and show up in real life, you shift everything. The woman you want doesn't need you to be perfect. She needs you to be present. She needs you to be bold. She needs you to be willing to risk a no to earn a genuine yes. If you're ready to become the kind of man who doesn't just get attention, but gets results, tell me in the comments. And if this message hit you in the places you've been avoiding, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Every week, I reveal the truths men need to hear, so you never again lose the woman you truly want simply because no one taught you how to keep her.